Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to PT Topic, and the topic for today is study tips. So, over these past few semesters, I've realized that sometimes one study technique just isn't enough. I used to study for anatomy by typing up practice questions during the lecture and typing in the answers afterwards so that I could quiz myself later in the futures. I've used Anki cards, creating them, studying Quizlets, and all those different materials. And I've realized that that method for that class sometimes didn't work when we got into more delicate or intricate details. So I'm going to share a few other study techniques that I've learned over the semester, and hopefully they'll help you out. Before I get into them, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, click the notification bell to receive updates about my future videos, comment down below about your thoughts about these different study techniques, and share it with your loved ones, family members, pets, and everyone in between. Now, let's get started. All right. So the first study method that I recommend, in addition to writing up the questions and then typing answers for them, is to look at your PowerPoint presentations if your professor provides them and blank out some of those important terms and then use that as future materials to quiz yourself on. I know from my intro to research class and for the intro to physical therapy profession class, the tests were based off of fill in the blanks. So it was a bit harder to study for that one compared to other classes, per se, like pathophysiology, where it was more multiple choice based and we weren't able to use as much word association for that. Now, I've learned that using the PowerPoint slides and blanking out is some of the important terms and filling in those blanks by writing in the terms yourself helped with retaining them, gaining a better understanding of the terms and definitions, and essentially helping me improve my scores for that class. Another study technique that I would recommend is getting into study partners and sharing some practice questions with them. So for my kinesiology class, what we were able to do was find different topics and subjects based off of what the textbook was talking about, what our professor has taught us, and formulated different practice scenarios that we would quiz each other on, as well as typing up the details and response. For example, someone is presenting with a hip circumduction gait. So that means that the patient is lifting up the pelvis on their swing face with one of their limbs and then circumducting around to swing their limb over it. It allows for the leg to shorten and then come around. And we can try and figure out the reasons for them. Is it due to an immobilized knee? Is it due to quadriceps spasticity, keeping their knee in an extended position, thus keeping it in a lengthened position, or a whole slew more? And then we found that talking it out helped us retain the information as well as creating silly terms with them. So we have a better way to recall that information once a question like that comes on the exam, or if we get quizzed on it from our teaching assistants, the TAs, or whenever we quiz each other with it. And we found that pretty helpful in doing that. However, as the semester progressed, we realized that the volume of information that we're supposed to learn for this one class also increased for all the other classes. So we had a harder time actually formulating study groups. So we then transitioned more into independent study. So that is one of the examples of us having to change our study habits. And I've realized that rereading the textbook has been helpful. And then even coming up with scenarios myself where I would say, okay, well, if a patient presents with this case, what are the signs and symptoms associated with this? What is the reason behind it? And I found that typing out my response and answers or writing it out myself, then sending that to my cohort members that I usually study with or sending it to the teaching assistants has been pretty helpful in revising my response so I felt better prepared for those exams coming in. Another thing that I've learned about the study habits is making sure that you try to stay organized and take frequent breaks as well. Now, with this semester, we've realized that there is just so much information and there is no way that you could cram for all these different materials and sources depending on the type of learner you are, how much your brain is able to retain, and more. So one of the mantras that I live by, it's better to master 80% of the material rather than cram and only retain 50% of the material. So I would schedule some of my routines as, okay, now that I'm done from classes, I'm going to study for one of the classes for either one topic, or I put a time limit. I would say I'm only going to spend 1 hour or 2 hours for this class. And then after I'm done with that 2 hours, it doesn't matter how far I got, I'm going to stop studying for that and I'm going to start studying for a different class. And that just helps me stay afloat of making sure that I understand materials for different classes instead of putting all my eggs in one basket. So I do well on potentially one class, but then not well for the other four classes or however so many classes that I had for that semester. So it's important to delegate your time effectively and appropriately, but also understanding that taking time for yourself is important. I know for me, sometimes I didn't stay 100% on top of my schedule because maybe my meal prepping took a lot longer than expected, or I had a situation where I chat with a friend about different circumstances, scheduling health appointments, and all those sorts of things because life happens. But I made sure that I didn't beat myself over it for the times that I missed out on it. And I also ensured that I took some time to relax. So I caught up on TV shows that I enjoyed watching, such as 911 and 911 Lone Star, that spinoff, and This Is Us. Not sponsored by any of them. I just really like those shows. So make sure you incorporate those times where you allow yourself to have a break once in a while and don't even feel guilty about it because like our muscles, our brain also works in similar ways. If we study for so long without giving it a break, it's like working out 7 days a week, and that just increases your propensity for getting injured, having a sprain, tearing a muscle, and so much more. So, by allowing yourself to have that time to relax and decompress in some shape, way, or form, whether that is watching some TV shows, literally scheduling time to do nothing, going to a playground and swinging on a swing set for maybe 30 minutes. Just do whatever you need to do to help recharge your brain so that you'll be able to get back to your study sessions and have a more effective study routine. All right. Thank you all again for tuning into this video. I hope you find it helpful, and please comment down below about your thoughts about this, and of course, the sharing, subscribing, and you know the rest of the drill. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video.